Hey you there. Have you ever wanted to make a comic, like a webtoon or manga? A story with a cool protagonist that looks memorable and recognizable with a clear personality? Of course, that would require a good character design first of all, but designing can be really challenging, and where do you even begin? Especially when you have a whole story, paneling, composition, scripting, and way more to worry about. Added to that, your character needs to be simple enough to be drawn countless of times. So, therefore you want to make sure your character design is good, or else you might regret it. And trust me, I've been there. So how do you approach this? Well, the answer is rather simple, but a lot of work goes into it. You should make concept art for your characters. This way you get to test if the design you had in mind works before you put it right into your comic. Of course, this isn't easy, but spending extra effort can amount to good results, and this is worth doing, especially for a key character. Also, I made a webtoon myself. It's a fantasy comic named Vingard. You can read it on Webtoon, or find it in the link in the description below. Currently, I'm working on a sequel one-shot that is set to release in December 2024, and I did some concept art for it. I feel it's a great example to show you how to avoid the common pitfalls while designing your own epic comic character. So, let me tell you about my process of designing an anime-styled character for my own webcomic, and show you what I realized in the process. So, to start off, there are some misconceptions about concept art, that these are epic, super rendered pieces that are created behind the scenes. There is a truth to that. However, most of the concept artwork you see in art books are made for promotional purposes. There's a lot more rough work done behind the scenes before that point that might never see the light of day if at all. So do not worry if your designs look super sketchy. What is more important is that the design works. You can also make a refined version for promotional reasons later. So let me introduce you to one of my titular characters, Bryn the Exiled. She is part of the horned folk named Kanajir, who live in the far east of the known world. As is obvious from her title, she was banished from her homeland and resorted to a life of monster hunting. Her horns clearly signify that she's a being born with magic. In this world, magic does not come easily to humans, as it is written in their genetics to nullify magic. Only a few acquire magic through unnatural means, by demonic contracts or fusing with magical beings, for instance. It is common for humans to fear those with magical powers and regard them as monsters. Bryn is feared by many, and is allowed to exist only because she's owned by the monster hunting organization that repurposes beings born with magic to hunt magic creatures, which are an ever-growing threat in this unstable world. Aside from this, Bryn is a proud magical being and looks down on humans for fearing her. She also craves the hunt and seeks to become a more powerful being so she can hunt even stronger creatures and can ascend to greater heights. This complex gives her a bit of an attitude. I had this character idea in my mind for a long time and paired her up as a friend and rival for Kolai, who I talked about in the last video. So I started sketching, and initially I didn't like it too much, although one variation felt fitting for perhaps a future character, so that's going in the fridge. After going on Pinterest and getting some influence from kabuki plays, I ended up on something like this. As you can see, I also added weapon variations. I really liked these so much that I ended up polishing these concept art pieces, and even tried making a splash art. I also made some other illustrations featuring Sinya, a character that's kept for a future arc, and that I will not talk about because that would be a spoiler. But for the comic, something felt awkward about the design, especially the outfit. Her cloak in various poses felt like a pain to draw, and it covered her arms too much. So yeah, the cloak would get in the way, and I couldn't see myself draw her 1,000 times, which is a problem. So when it came to preparing for the comic, I knew something had to change. I redesigned her, along with Kolai. I made her more simple, and outfit-wise, I knew I had what I wanted. It was simple enough, but stylish. Although, when you're making a comic, a character design is more than just the outfit. You need to know how characters will express themselves. And it's a good idea to demonstrate this before you jump into making the comic right away, especially if it's a main character. So a good idea would be to create a character sheet where various character emotions are expressed, along with showing the characters from different angles. So I sketched, plotted the layout of the sheet very roughly, did the line art, then the coloring, and this was the final result. As you can see, she's visible from the front, side and back. But at the same time, I displayed her expressing emotions and posing. Like for instance, she is showing off her electrical magic powers proudly. And here she's looking back with a bloodthirsty expression while she unsheathes her blade. Due to this, I'm starting to get a good idea of who Brynn is. A useful thing is that this concept artwork will serve as a perfect reference for myself. I can always check if I got her face or expressions right by looking at this sheet while I'm making the comic. So yeah, that's a little tip of mine. You can add in character expressions while at the same time showing them from different angles and make the sheet dynamic. This will really make you demonstrate how the characters will carry themselves and how they will express themselves too. And also, iteration is key. It's worth doing variations of the character designs. Sometimes your first design might end up being your favorite still, and that's okay, you did not waste time. What's important is that you explored all possibilities and end up with a character that you like. My mindset for approving my own character design is, if I walked into a toy store and saw this character as an action figure, would I get excited and want to buy it immediately? If the answer is yes, then that's good, then you should go for it. Aside from logical and functional design choices, it's important that you love what you created, because if you really like it, there's a bigger chance someone else might end up liking it too. And that's it. That's a view into my process of designing a character that's ready to be deployed in their epic fantasy adventure. Also, I would really like to thank all my new viewers and subscribers. The comments you've left have been really heartwarming and motivating. It means the world, so once again, thank you so much. If there are any topics about webcomics, concept art, and design or other things you'd wish for me to talk about, feel free to tell so in the comments. See you in the next episode and stay adventurous.